Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with our series of Necromunda Battle Reports. This is Meat for the Grinder. It is Battle Report number 49 of our Necromunda Dominion campaign for our Sector 7 Turf War. Now, in case it's been a while since we've actually done these battle reports, but in case you're wondering what the reason why it's called Meat for the Grinder, the reason why is because we've added 2 new gangs to our campaign, which are Corpse Grinders as well as Slave Ogrins. So for the next 2 turns, we're just going to do multiple battle reports using multiple gangs fighting against each other, so that way these 2 gangs, the Corpse Grinder cults as well as the Slave Ogrins, can level up pretty quickly, so that way they can participate in our campaign. And so because of that, this is Battle Report number 49. This one is going to be a hunt them down scenario that is fought between my 2 friends, Iron Major as well as Sister Serial. Iron Major is bringing the Prophets of Rage, a Corpse Grinder cults gang, while Sister Serial is playing Precinct 13 of the Palanite Enforcers. So with that being said, real quick, we'll play some background music real fast. If you want to see exactly what the gangs will be bringing for this scenario, go ahead and pause and take a look at your leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is called Hunt Them Down. Pretty much this will be taking place on a Zone Mortalis battlefield, and what it is that the battlefield is 2 tiles wide by 3 tiles long is pretty much how it works. And pretty much the idea is that supposed to be that D3 plus 3 defenders have to try to cross through the battlefield and survive 9 rounds of combat. As they're trying to go, every single time they get to the next 2 inches of the last 2 inches of the other side of the board, which is on the right hand side of the battlefield, what ends up happening is that the last 2 tiles on the left hand side go away, and then we extend the battlefield by another 2 tiles. So it's kind of like we're kind of doing like this rolling road type situation, kind of like a platform game where you're just kind of trying to move your way through the Underhive and try to escape as quickly as possible. Precinct 13 will be the defenders in this scenario, so they're the ones trying to escape, while the Corpse Grinder cult will be the attackers on this one, trying to hunt them down. And pretty much what ends up happening is that the defenders have to start off from the left hand side of the table, escape out the right. The attackers will also pursue after them, as starting on the second round they show up on the left hand side of the battlefield, and they deploy on that edge or within 8 inches of already deployed fighter. And pretty much the defenders need to survive 9 rounds, or the attackers take out the defenders. Pretty much how it works for victory: if the attackers are left, the attackers will win, otherwise the defender wins. For experience, you get 1 point of experience for all participants, as well as for 1 point of experience for each attacker who puts a defender out of action, as well as 1 point of experience for each defender who makes it to the end of the game. Reputation: whatever gang wins on this one earns D3 reputation points as well. So the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real fast. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the table. As you can see, my friends are playing on a 2x3 section of Zone Mortalis terrain, and of course the terrain there set that you see there, that was actually created by Iron Major specifically for Necromunda campaigns, so kudos to him. On the left hand side there, you can see there's a Precinct 13 members. Their goal is to cross the battlefield as quick as they can to the right hand side and try to escape. As for the battle plan on this one, I'm not really playing this game, I'm just taking photos, so I'm just the campaign arbitrator, so I really couldn't tell you what their battle plan was, but I'm assuming Sister Sarah is going to try to move as quickly as she can across the battlefield to escape, and of course Iron Major will pursue her, and that's pretty much the battle hunt for that one. So from there we go directly to deployments. So up here in the top left hand corner of the battlefield we have 3 members of Precinct 13. Leading them in the back there, that is Judge Darko. He's a Palanite Enforcer. He's equipped with mesh armor, armored suit. He's got a maul and frag grenades, as well as a Enforcer bolt gun with penetrating rounds. Up in the front taking point, that is Judge let's see, Judge Dodd is his name. There we go. Judge Dodd is a Palanite Patrolman. He's got flak armor, armored undersuit with an Enforcer bolt gun with penetrating rounds. He's also got a stub gun with dum-dum bullets. He's also got a hand injury. And then right next to him in the back, that is Judge Knock. Judge Knock is armed with, is another Subjugator Patrolman armed with flared flak armor. He's got armor undersuit. He's got a sniper rifle as well as a stub gun with dum-dum bullets. And that pretty much makes the deployment here in the left-hand corner. And in the center here, we have two other members of Precinct 13. On the bottom there, that is Judge Vasquez, a Palanite Sergeant. He's equipped with mesh armor, armored undersuit with a flamer, and last pistol with hotshot power pack. And he's got the teamwork skill. And then right above him on the top there, that is Judge Anderson, who is a Palanite Enforcer, armed with Palanite Patrolman, armed with mesh armor as well as Enforcer combat shotgun with salvo and shredder rounds. He's also got frag grenades as well as a power maul. And that pretty much makes the deployment for this one. So with deployment over with, we skip the deployment for the Corpse Grinder Cults because they don't show up until round 2, so because of that we go directly to the top of round number 1. So here's a overhead shot of turn number 1. Precinct 13 gets to go first because they're the only ones on the table, and so what ends up happening is that Serial starts moving as quickly as she possibly can. First of all, she sends up Judge Vasquez as well as Judge Anderson. Anderson moves up and opens the very first of the doors in the path there in the bottom of the screen, and of course, Judge Vasquez also moves up normally. She also turns her fighter 180 so that way you can open up the flamer just in case any of the members of the Corpse Grinder Cults go after them. At the same time, at the very top of the board there, you can see there that you're kind of hidden by the wall there, but I'll zoom in on those guys here in a second. Judge Darko as well as Judge Dodd as well as Knock, they just do no movements as quick as they can, balancing their way along the catwalk there, trying to make their way all the way across the top of the battlefield. And that pretty much makes it the action phase for this one. So here's a close-up with Judge Vasquez as well as Judge Anderson making their way through the bottom half of the battlefield, opening doors and trying to move as quick as they possibly can in order to escape the wrath of the Corpse Grinder Cults. Because when Iron Major's forces do deploy, they'll deploy on the far left-hand side of the battlefield within 2 inches of the table edge, and they're going to come straight at these guys. So that part's going to be kind of crazy. And finally, here's a close-up of the other 3 judges in the top of the screen, Judge Knock, Dodd, as well as Darko, moving their way as quick as they can across the battlefield in order to escape. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 on this one. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2, and Precinct 13 managed to get the initiative on this one, but before we actually get to the action phase though, the members of the Prophets of Rage actually deploy. So you can see on the bottom half of the screen, 3 members of the Prophets of Rage decide to pop up on the table. In the very back there, that is the 8-fold Harvest Lord. He is a Dramatis Personae bounty hunter who's equipped with Butcher's Mask. He's got a full plate mill, a pair of heavy chain cleavers. He's also got fighting knife, as well as a Corpse Grinder Cult icon. And he also has the Avatar of Blood, Killing Blood, Shredder, Slaughterborn, as well as Bounty Hunter special rules attached to him as well. And he's also leading a 2-man pack of scum. We have Tova and Avot. They're both equipped exactly the same. Both are equipped with mesh armor, stub guns, and dum-dum rounds, as well as mauls. And that represents the deployment here in the bottom of the screen for the Corpse Grinder Cults. And at the top of the deployment area is the rest of Iron Major's deployment. On the bottom there, that is Sever Greel. He is the Butcher. He is the gang's leader. He's got a Butcher's Mask with plate mill. He's got 2-handed axe. He's got the Corpse Grinder Cult icon. He's also got Commanding Presence, as well as First Into the Fray skills. And of course, right next to him, of course, on the top there, that is Drown Ilvek. He is an Initiate who's got Initiate's Mask. He's got flak armor, a stub gun with dum-dum rounds, frag grenades, as well as a Butcher's Cleaver. He's also got this infiltrate special skill. And then next to him on the bottom there, that's Kellam the Maw. He's another Initiate with an Initiate's Mask. He's got flak armor, a stub gun, dum-dum rounds, a flinching knife, as well as the infiltrate skill. And that pretty much makes the deployment for the Prophets of Rage. So because of that, we go directly to the action phase with Precinct 13 taking point. And for your first activation, Sister Serial then activates Judge Vasquez. Judge Vasquez, because he's a sergeant, decides to also group activate with Judge Anderson there on the top. Judge Anderson just spends a basic action, a simple action to move forward as normal moon allows to the second door and sends a second action to open that door up, so that way they have a clean getaway to escape. Judge Vasquez, on the other hand, opens up with his flamer directly into Avot and Tova and Avot, there we go, and also manages to hit the 8-fold Harvest Lord as well, covering him with a sheet of liquefied flaming promethium. And in the end, it ended up being a pretty good mixed result for Sister Serial. First of all, Tova, that's the guy there in orange, he actually manages to catch on fire as well as get seriously injured, just because he goes crashing face down on the ground, and he's currently on fire as well. When they rolled to see exactly what direction he was traveling, and he just went back the way he came, so he just bumped up against the wall there, just kind of sitting there burning for the most part. Now, luckily for the 8-fold Harvest Lord, though, he just mainly got pinned. He did not catch on fire, so he's just currently pinned right now. And as you can see on the bottom there, Avot, though, that guy managed to get pinned as well. However, he's on fire, and so he just kind of rolls down, for his random direction, rolls down there to the bottom of the screen there in order to try to escape as best he can. So for Sister Serial's action over with, we go directly to Iron Major, and he does a group activation with Sever Grill, his Butcher. He also activates Dren Elvek as well as Killing them All. First of all, Dren Elvek charges directly into Judge Darko, engaging him in close combat, and as you can see, the rest of the group kind of just stacks up right behind him with Killing them All, followed by Sever Grill right behind them. The problem that Iron Major is facing, though, is that there's only a really thin catwalk for these guys to walk through, so there is no maneuvering space, and so long as Judge Darko as well as Dren Elvek are still fighting, no one can get past them. So it was actually kind of like a bottleneck situation that Sister Serial exploited perfectly. So after charging in combat, Dren Elvek does manage to put a flesh wound directly onto Judge Darko. He does manage to shoot him with the dum-dum rounds from his stub gun, but unfortunately that was about it. When it went for the injury, rolled a flesh wound on that one. So yes, Judge Darko is easier to wound, but the only problem though is that he can still fight, he can still shoot, so he's still kind of a threat for all intents and purposes. So, Sister Serial goes next. She then activates Judge Dowd, who does a double movement along the entire length of the board, making his way to the end of Freedom Road. So, Iron Major then activates the Eightfold Harvest Lord. He spends a simple action for him to get back on his feet again because he was pinned a moment earlier, and he moves up a basic action to engage. Unfortunately for Iron Major, though, the Eightfold Harvest Lord does not have any range attacks. All he has is close combat attacks. So all he did is just move him up forward to get into closer range. That way he can successfully charge into Judge Vasquez. And for Sister Serial's next activation, she also then activates Judge Knock, who does exactly the same thing, moves up twice his movement allowance all the way up to the top of the end of the table there in order to try to escape. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the screen, Avat does spend a simple action to put the flames out, so he's no longer on fire, and he also puts another simple action to get back on his feet again because he was pinned earlier. And as you can see there, he's also got a flesh wound as well. And that pretty much makes up that activation. And for Sister Serial's final activation, she does try to counterattack with Judge Darko, but unfortunately, though, she just kind of fails her rolls for the most part. I think it was her hit rolls. I think she rolled a 1 to hit. So because of that, nothing much really happens, and so Dren Elvek as well as Judge Darko are still engaged in close combat. And that pretty much makes up the action phase for this one. So with that, we go directly to the end phase. As you can see in this photo, Tova is still on the ground, still seriously injured. Iron Major rolled a serious injury result for him again, so because of that, the only thing you do right now is lay on the ground, bleeding, and also on fire at the exact same time. So things are not looking very good for Tova at this point. And that takes us directly to the end of turn number 2. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, pretty much the advance from the Corpse Grinder cults have pretty much hit a grinding halt. Judge Vasquez is pretty much holding his own, shooting at anybody with that flamer of his to make sure that guys don't end up getting chased. And at the same time, Judge Dark on the top of the screen is doing a good job blocking and bottlenecking the Corpse Grinder cults, so that way they can't advance on them. So with the end of turn number 2 over with, you go directly to the top of turn number 3, and both Iron Major as well as Sister Serial roll off for initiative to see who will be going first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 3, and the Corpse Grinder cults managed to get the initiative on this one, so they'll be going first for this turn. However, before that actually happens, though, a couple of members of the Corpse Grinder cults, the Prophets of Rage, do show up on the table. So as you can see here, right between Judge Vasquez as well as Judge Anderson there, we have Orlok the Melter. He's basically initiate. That guy's armed with an initiate smash. He's got a flak armor, he's got a hand flamer, he's also got a flensing knife, so that guy is pretty deadly and also really cut out to kill. At the same time, on the top of the action phase here, we're going to talk about the action phase here real quick. We also got 2 other guys who show up. We have Banner the Eld as well as Krolla Elvek. Both those guys stroke right smack dab between Judge Anderson as well as Judge Darko. So things are not looking very good over here on the top of the screen either. And that's what those guys are deployed out for the most part. So with that, we go directly to the action phase, and the very first thing that ends up happening is that my buddy Iron Major decides to activate the Eightfold Harvest Lord, and that guy goes charging directly into Judge Vasquez. Because that, he does engage him in close combat as well, which is not very good for Sister Serial. Luckily for Sister Serial, though, nothing actually ends up happening for the most part, so because that, he is perfectly fine as well. So because that, we go directly to the Precinct 13, and as you can see in this photo, my friend Sister Serial then activates Judge Anderson, does 180, Torendron opens up with his shotgun for his combat shotgun, but unfortunately for her, though, she rolls a 1 to hit, so because of that, her shotgun doesn't do exactly anything. Lucky for her, though, Judge Vasquez did manage to survive the shot with his armor safe, so he's perfectly fine, but things are not looking very good right now for Sister Serial here on the bottom of the screen. At the same time, on the top of the screen here, for the next activation, Iron Major then activates Banner the Eld, which is an initiate who's armed with a flak armor. He's got an initiate's mask. He's got a hand flamer as well as a stub gun with dum-dum rounds and frag grenades, and he goes charging directly into close combat with Judge Knock. So because of that, the 2 of them are currently engaged in close combat as well. But unfortunately for Iron Major, once again, attacks are just flipped, so nothing much really happens of it. So Sister Serial then goes next, so she then activates Judge Darko, who also once again puts his attacks directly into Dran Elvek, and once again she failed to hit, wasn't able to do anything against him. She's been rolling a bunch of 1s and 2s for the most part for her combat phases, so that part is horrible. And to add to the hilarity of the situation, Krola Elvek charges directly into the back of Judge Darko, but unfortunately for him though, he fails his attacks too, so not much is really happening, just a bunch of grindings going on between these two factions for the most part. So then Iron Major then goes next and then activates Avot. Avot charges directly into Judge Vasquez, and even with supporting attacks and assistance from the Eightfold Harvest Lord, fails his attacks. There's a bunch of 1s are coming up for this section of the battle report, so that part's kind of crazy. So nobody's landing any hits, so because of that, not much is really happening in terms of close combat and charging. Judge Dodd then goes next. As you can see in this photo, he basically does double movement, hitting directly to the edge of the table and staying about 4 inches away from the table edge. And the reason why that's a good idea is because while going to the two edges of the far side of the table will reset the board, what ends up happening is that if any of the members of the Precinct 13 are stuck on those trailing edges of the board, by the time it reaches the end, those guys automatically go out of action and they have to suffer on the injury table as well. So Sister Cheryl, as you can see her, she just kind of leaves them right there just a couple inches away, so that way she doesn't trigger that feature of the battle report. Now, as for the Corpse Grinder cult, nothing bad happens to them. What ends up happening is they just get recycled, and then once again they get to redeploy the next turn. But this time though, they only get to deploy D3 fighters. So while there is a little bit of a penalty because you won't get as many fighters, it's not that bad for Iron Major, all things considered. So with that, we go with Iron Major's next activation. He once again activates Sever Grill, who then also activates the last remaining of his initiates, and they basically just close the distance and try to stack up right behind Dran Elvek, so that way they can try to charge and try to take out Judge Darko if they're able to. And for Sister Serial's final activation, she does activate Judge Nock to counterattack against Banner of the Eld, but unfortunately nothing much happens, so because of that, she just kind of ignores it for the most part. So that pretty much makes up the turn on this one. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase, and the only injury that's left on the table right now is Tova, and so because of that, my buddy Iron Mage has to roll for his initiative for his injury for him, and rolls an out cold result for that Hive Scummer, so because of that, he does immediately go out of action. Luckily though, because he's a hired gun, a hanger-on, he doesn't actually have to suffer any injuries. All he does is just kind of goes out of action, and he'll be able to fight again in the next turn. Into the next turn, into the next scenario. Alright, so that takes directly to the end of turn number 3, and here's an overhead shot of the battlefield. As you can see, Sister Serial is in dire straits right now. A couple of her Palanite Enforcers have made it past the first third of Freedom Road. They're currently in the center with Judge Dodd all the way to the far right hand side of the battlefield. The problem though is that if she does send Judge Dodd forward, the two fighters are still stuck on the back left. They'll go out of action automatically. So she has to find out what either has to choose. Either stay, hopefully have her gangers escape and then move, or some combination thereof. So things are not looking very good right now for Sister Serial, as the forces are slowly being bogged down by the sheer numbers of the Prophets of Rage. And so with that goes directly to the top of turn number 4, and Precinct 13 managed to get the initiative on this one, and as you can see in this photo, pretty much Sister Serial just kind of reacts. Which first thing she does, she breaks contact off with her close combat with the Eightfold Harvest Lord. So she does go back, I think 3 inches is what she does, so it's a basic action in order to pull that, and since she backed up, she then opens fire with her Flamer again, using another basic shot. As you can see there, it gets Avot as well as getting the Eightfold Harvest Lord, and also at the same time manages to clip I believe that's, Orlok the Melter, managed to kill that guy as well within the shot of that Flamer. So all those guys got hit. So as you can see in this one, this time people got caught on fire this time around. First of all, Orlok the Melter, he catches on fire and he just basically gets pinned. He kind of ducks down to the bottom right there. That's where he ended up going. The Eightfold Harvest Lord also takes a wound and also catches on fire as well as pinned. He goes right back to where he started from. So because he's currently laying on the ground and burning out for the most part. And Tova, oddly enough, he actually catches on fire and actually runs forward like 11 inches right directly into that little slime river there, and he is currently laying on the ground, and he is currently on fire as well. So with that, we go directly to another group activation up here in the top. What ends up happening is Iron Major decides to group activate with Silver Grill once again, who then also activates Dran Elvek as well as, I believe that's Banner of the Eld, I believe. Oh, no, I'm sorry, yeah, Krola Elvek, there we go, to actually do close combat with Judge Darko. Unfortunately for those guys, though, they flub their attacks, so nothing much really happens there. So because of that, their activation just really does nothing for them for this round. So then Sister Serial then activates Judge Darko in order to do some counterattacks. And as you see this photo, managed to put a serious injury directly on Necrola Ilvec for her basic action. So because that, he does suffer a flesh wound, and he also suffers a serious injury because she hit it with his maul, which has 2 damage. And because she has another basic action, she then also decides to break contact as well. As you can see there, she slips back 4 inches directly out of the first third of the battlefield into the second third. So that frees up Sister Serial from actually being trapped in that location. So Iron Major then goes next. He then tries to activate Tova and will try to put himself on a fire, but unfortunately for him though, he fails. So because that, Tova is still pinned and he is still currently on fire. And finally, Sister Cheryl then activates Judge Nox, who does manage to put a serious injury directly onto the Palanite of Eld. So because he goes crashing face to the ground, he's currently bleeding out as well, which is a really bad spot to be in because all that needs to happen is Sister Cheryl just put a coup de grace on him, and with a simple action, that guy will be dead. So Iron Major then activates the Eightfold Harvest Lord and tries to put out the flames, but unfortunately for him though, he's unable to do so. So because of that, the Eightfold Harvest Lord is still currently on fire, he is still burning, and he is still currently pinned. And for Sister Cheryl's very last activation, she then activates Judge Dodd and moves him up forward, so that way he trips within the last 2 inches of Freedom Road, and that immediately ends the round as the table is reorganized to extend forward, while the back third of the trailing edge goes away. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 4, and as you can see, the table, all we really do for that one, we just move the tiles over the left-hand side. We take off the very first 2 tiles on the left-hand side. Those go away because we're slowly doing like a rolling road type situation. The table then shifts over to the left, and we add 2 more tiles to the right-hand side, which is like that L junction there in the top right-hand corner, as well as that rift right there in the bottom right-hand corner, and the action continues. As you can see, almost every single member of the Prophets of Rage were stuck back in the last third, so because of that, nothing bad happens to them. It's just that this next turn, though, only D3 of them will be able to pop up, so Iron Major won't get as many fighters as he did last time. And not to mention, every single member of Precinct 13 were in the second third when that happened, so because of that, they're all perfectly fine, with Judge Vasquez just barely making it at the very last second. So that part was pretty cool. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 5. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 5, and Precinct 13 will get the initiative on this one. However, before we even get to the action phase though, Iron Major rolls a D3 to see how many of his fires will show up on the table, and unfortunately for him though, he only rolls a 1, so because that only one guy shows up, he decides to deploy the Eightfold Harvest Lord, and he deploys within 8 inches of Banner of the Eld. So because that, you can either deploy on the very far side, the trailing edge of the battlefield, or within 8 inches of another friendly fighter. So because that, the Eightfold Harvest Lord kind of pops up out of the ground, and gets ready to get some more sweet revenge onto Judge Knock. So with that, we go directly to the action phase. The first thing that Sister Cyril does is she spends a simple action to finish off, Banner of the Eld with a coup de grace. Manages to put that guy directly out of action, so nothing bad happens to him. It's just that he goes out of action with this one. And then she opens fire with her hunting or sniper rifle directly into the Eightfold Harvest Lord. Managed to hit that guy and put a wound on him as well, pinning him at the exact same time. So because that, now the Eightfold Harvest Lord actually has 2 wounds, which is a really bad spot for him to be in. Meanwhile, Iron Major decides to activate Tova, who does manage to put out the flames for once and gets back on his feet for a simple action, so he uses both of his actions and just kind of stands there for the most part because he can't do anything else. Sister Serial then, of course, activates Judge Anderson, opens up with basic action, opening fire with his combat shotgun, opening with salvo rounds, managed to put Tova out of action, so because that, he goes directly out of the after-action report, out of the battle report. And at the same time, she also decides to move up Judge Anderson's moon allowance over to the right-hand side to make his way to the edge of the table. And for the next activation, Sister Stone then activates Judge Darko, who then opens up with his bolt gun, managed to hit him twice, the Eightfold Harvest Lord, and actually put him out of action as well. So because of the Eightfold Harvest Lord is now dead. But because he's a hired gun, though, he doesn't really worry about rolling serious injuries, so he is perfectly fine. And since there's no more fighters left from the Prophets of Rage on the table, Sister Sarah then activates Judge Vasquez, who does a double movement directly behind Judge Anderson, so that way they can make their way down Freedom Road. And she also moves with Judge Dodd as well, using double movement to go directly within 4 inches of the table edge, just holding back for now until she feels ready to trip that feature again to make the road keep on moving. And that pretty much ends the turn for this one. And it's at this point that my buddy Iron Major decides to call the game at this point because he realizes the Precinct 13 guys have gotten too far away and he will not be able to catch up with them because he doesn't have the ability to chase them down. So you can see that takes us directly to the end of the game with Precinct 13 managed to get the win on this one over the Corpse Grinder Cults. So that being said, we go directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, now it's time for the post-game where we talk about what happened to each of the gangs. So first of all, we're going to talk about the Prophets of Rage or the Corpse Grinder cults. For injuries, they actually suffered 5 injuries on this one. Banner the Eld as well as Drowned Elvek suffered out cold results. They make full recoveries no problem. Whereas the Idful Harvest Lord as well as Tova and Avot, they're perfectly fine because they're hired guns. For advancements, they do earn experience points for the gangs, but none of them advance at this time just because they're a brand new gang and they're still building up their experience points. From their territories, from their settlement, they earn 1 point reputation from their settlement as well as 20 credits. And because they have enhanced boons with the owning the fire pit, they also earn 2 more points reputation from that as well. With their 20 credits they earn from their settlement, they put that currently into the stash, that way they can use it for a later time. When it comes to reputation, they earn 3 points reputation from the territories, bringing their grand total up to 8. Their new record now is at 1 win as well as 1 loss, and their new gang ranking now is at 1,425 points. Now it's time to talk about Precinct 13. For injuries, none of the members of the team were actually injured, so they're perfectly fine. However, when it comes to advancements, 4 members of the gang do advance forward. Judge Darko levels up to level 4, earning +1 to his cool, while Judge Anderson levels up to level 2, earning +1 to that character's toughness. That character is now toughness 5. Judge Dodd then levels up to level 2, earning +1 to his willpower, and then Judge Knock also levels up to level 4, becoming a specialist. That way he can spend his experience points just like everybody else now. From the territories, from their Palanite Precinct, they managed to scrounge up 10 credits from that, so that way they can use them for their operations. And then when they captured their territory, they captured a corpse farm on our map, and they decided to police that, earning 4 points reputation from policing up that territory. In the trading post, they take their 10 credits they got from the Palanite Precinct, they put that directly into the stash. For the reputation, they earn 3 points reputation from winning the scenario, 4 points reputation from policing up the corpse farm, and when combined with their current base reputation, their grand total now is at 42 points of reputation in total. Their new record now is at 6 wins as well as 3 losses, and their new gang rating now is at 2,350 points. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.